else can you pay $15 for something to get true value, right? I mean, yeah, you might have to put in the time to read it. Maybe it's a few hours. It's funny you bring up billionaires. I know three billionaires right now. As you're talking, I know three billionaires right now. I would not want to be any one of the three or live their lives.
Oh,
You know,
good point.
right?
Good point, Jim.
Because oftentimes when you think you want that, but I know those people. I was like, I don't want anything they have because somewhere along the way they lost those values or that interesting thing about them, and they've gone beyond their soul, right? Um, we've gotten really deep on some things. I want to hear about, or at least I know our listeners want to hear about the process of writing a book with you, because I've had a lot of people ask me like, "Wow, how was it?" And almost daily now I'm telling the story like, "Well, this is what we did." Can you tell people, if they want to write a book, how they work with you and what the process looks like, and all that stuff, because we're going to miss the meat and potatoes of this call.
Yeah, thanks for letting me explain this because some people think it's this long drawn out process and nothing can be further from the truth. We try to simplify it. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you have a business or if you're thinking about creating a business, start envisioning when the book is done, imagine it being in your hands. How would you use this for your business or to elevate your name, your credibility, or your revenue streams? Just start thinking about that, whether it is to have a podcast, whether it's to be a consultant, whether it's to create a course or a membership. What would you say to these people if you're up on stage? Just start envisioning that. Now reverse engineer it and say, well, if I want to be the tax professional, or if I want to help people overcome addiction, or if I want to help people invest in real estate, what I would tell them is lesson number one, get around the right people. Lesson number two, feed your mind with the right stuff. Lesson number three, invest in yourself. Start writing down generic lessons that you would teach once the book is done. Just that simple. It could be one word, it could be a sentence. Then in your mind, yes or no, do you have a specific story that taught you that lesson? And I brought up a few stories on this call of Rich Dad Poor Dad entering my life. That's in my book. I tell stories about me being a door-to-door marketer, right? Knocking on doors. You have 38 seconds to get them to know, like, and trust you. How important is your message? Get them to build rapport right away, all right, with you. Ask questions. So these little stories that taught me about business and life, that went in my book. So lesson combined with story, whether it's significant or insignificant, just have that ready.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you know the target audience of your book, well, then it's very easy to write a chapter. I would sit down with you for 2 hours one day and 2 hours another day. And I would say, hey, Sandy, I'm looking at your lesson sheet here. Get around the right people. What's this mean to you? And how did you learn this lesson? And you just have a conversation with me. I record it. I send all of it. It's 2 hours one day, 2 hours another day, 4 hour recording, bottled up in a Zoom call, send it to a writer. The writer will write it. I have about 15 different writers. One will sit down, watch it, listen to it. This is not a transcription service. It's a human being. We'll write it for you. We send it back to you. Now it's time for you to tweak your own book. I brought up Rich Dad Poor Dad for a specific reason. Kiyosaki's the man that got all the credit for it, but it's actually the genius of Sharon Lecter who brought it to life. She's the great writer. And if you look into her past, she's very significant to a couple books like Outwitting the Devil, which I recommend you guys check out. One of the best books, especially audiobooks. So ghostwriting, that's the art of it. Get someone else to write it for you, brought to life, but now it's time for you to tweak it so it's really yours. Once you get our Word document, at least 120 pages, 20,000 words, which is about a 90-minute read, you review that content, you take out what you don't like, add in what you forgot to tell us, just get your thoughts out of your head down on a piece of paper. Jordan Peterson says, in order to get anything done, just write a bad first draft. You want to accomplish anything in life, just create something. Even if it's not perfect, just get it there so you can adjust it. It's a lot easier to adjust than build from the ground up. So you send it back to us. We do a clean edit, clean format, and get it prepared for proof upload to Amazon. In between the interview and you receiving that book, I'll help you out with subtitle and title. Jim, I think you were dead on with your title or subtitle. And so it's easy sometimes for people, or it could be a little bit more difficult. So I'll help you out with the title and subtitle. I tell all my clients, you do not want to start with the title. You want to marry the title to the content. You don't want to marry the content to the title.
Mm-hmm.
It limits you if you do it that way. So once we help you out with the title and subtitle, you pick that. It's your favorite one. Great. Now we go to cover design. Cover design is when it starts to become real. We send you at least 25 cover options. And I think we bombarded you a lot with cover
Yeah, we had
choices.
a lot.
I think I wanted to blow you away. So I was like, oh, we got to send them a lot. So we send our clients a bunch. Now it's time for you to pick your favorite 3 covers and then fine tune and get it down to the 1. So the cover's done. You've read your book. You made your adjustments. That's done. Now it goes back. We clean everything up, upload to Amazon. Amazon will print it for about $4 per copy. You get it in the mail. Now it's time for you to review your own book. Give me the thumbs up whenever you're okay with it. We put you on the schedule for the Amazon bestseller push. And what that means is there's a category out there that has low demand on a certain day at a certain time. We'll find it. And then we become an Amazon bestseller within about an 8-hour window, about a 3-hour consolidated push. So at the very end of all this, it takes usually 65 to 75 days, start to finish. You're an Amazon best-selling author. You own it 100%. And that's when the fun begins. People think a book is the end. It's really the beginning. Now you can give it away. You can use it as a lead magnet. You can create breadcrumbs towards a course or a membership, everything that you thought about in the very beginning. It's game changing. It'll elevate you upon or faster than anything else I've ever seen. It will give you a new identity. You become known as the author. And now you have something that most people do not. And Jim, you might realize this, but most people want to write a book. Only about 3% of those who want ever finish one.
Yeah.
So by having it, it becomes your weapon. It becomes your trophy. Use it properly, and you can create many revenue streams and many new stories with it.
I'm going to give you a few more kudos because I know it's not appropriate to talk too much about what you do and yourself. By the way, there's people out there like me and our your new friend and my old friend Clayton out there in Glendive, Montana.
He wants to write a book now.
Yeah,
well done.
Clayton, let's get off your butts, BUT''S, and get this book going. But I've talked about in my own mind for 10 years, I'm going to write a book. And I know there's a lot of people like that. You just suggested that everybody wants to write a book, but only 3% do. What I loved about your process, Mike, is that it allowed me to complete that journey of desire and actually get it into print because of how you did things. I sat down a dozen times over those 10 years and started writing out chapter 1. I was like, I'm never going to complete this, and I'm done before I even finish the first paragraph. But your format, right, the way that you go about it, you send a little worksheet. It's pretty brief, and this is what I love in the process. You said, hey, come up with 16 stories and 16 lessons, right? And I have a lot of stories, as you suggested earlier in the show. I thought, well, let me tell some stories or write down some stories that I think are interesting. And it's amazing when we look back at our life and the stories that we've lived through, how there's an actual lesson there, know? And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I didn't think about the lesson at the time, but that changed my life in a way that now I do this. Therein lies the lesson. And I started marrying up these lessons, with my stories and realized, okay, I do have a book. I do have some chapters. I talk about Arnold Palmer getting down on people for the way they sign their name. Like if somebody,
I was about to bring that up.
If somebody asks you to sign an autograph, make it legible, right? They care enough to ask you, make it legible. And these are little small things, but it talks about, it really alludes to how you do everything in life, right? Is your name legible? I love Andy Frisella, wipe the piss off the toilet seat. If you don't, it tells me everything about you, So, Mike, the way that your process really allows somebody to extract, their stories into lessons. And I really think that everybody has a lesson. So that's the first kudo for you.
Thanks, man.
The second one is, no, I didn't come up with my title. Okay. I told you about myself. My podcast is called The Answer is Yes. And you guys shot back 10 things, and at least 8 of the 10 were like, nailed it, spot on. I did come back with you like, hey, we all love this one. It was the final, freedom to say yes. And what's cool about that is you took my podcast name, The Answer is Yes, and you turned it into something that really was a lot more meaningful for me. As you know, I'm very patriotic. I'm involved in politics. And you took that freedom from, my patriotism and put it into my business book. It's like, wow, that was genius. So, you and your writers, awesome. And like you said, you don't want to build the title and then write your book around the title. You want to build your stories and then come up with a title. And you guys did that. And then, what I loved about it is like underneath my title, you guys came up with this line: what it takes to stand by your values, strengthen your identity, and live life driven. You put the pieces together. You put me together in the book. So, huge kudos to you and your team for what you did for me in this final piece of work. And I'll just say the last thing I'll say about it is I never thought about this. I've always had confidence in the things I do, but I wrote the book. You helped me. We push it out. Now it hits Amazon. I'm like, oh my God, people are going to read that. Is it good enough? And let me tell you, when you're authentic and real and you put something out there, it's good enough. It will resonate with people and they'll appreciate what you've said. And I've received so many warm compliments for the book. So Mike, thank you for that. Thank you for giving me that and for your team for putting something together that I can be proud of. Really appreciate it.
It's an honor, man. Thank you for saying that. And I think you probably figured this out. When you put a book out, like you said, you have to defend it now. This is your story. Possibly for the very first time, the world is going to know about you. And when you defend your story, now you become a little stronger. The way you walk changes and the way you speak and fight back. This is your story. This is your life. You defend it. And what's important to you, you defend. And so now going forward, it'll be easier and easier and easier, because when you break through that bubble of what is the world going to think about me, then all of a sudden you become truly free, and nothing really can hurt you. Like mentally, it's your life, your story, you're in control, and haters can come your way. Naysayers will come your way. But when you're truly free, none of that bothers you.
Mike, I'm going to ask you one more question before we wrap this up, and it's probably a rabbit hole, but I'm sure you can summarize. By the way, I've had current clients, my 95-year-old client, I never thought he'd read the book. Everything I send him, he always says, oh, yeah, it's on the stack. I'll get to it. But I sent him my book, and he's like 3/4 of the way through it. He goes, Jim, I really appreciate this book because I've learned so much more about you now. And it reinforced our relationship.
Amazing.
Right? Like what we're already doing is good, but it made it better because he learned something more about me. Right? And I thought, wow, what a great tool. Okay, so the small rabbit hole is, and good luck summarizing it. You talk about, and you're very transparent about your revenue streams. Right? I see you post like, I have 8 revenue streams or 10 revenue streams. And you're like this, and this. These are benefits not only of who you are, but also benefits for people to extract from writing a book, is that they have the ability to open up revenue streams. And now I'm obsessed with it, right? I'm like, okay, I need 2 more revenue streams. Where are they at?
Yes.
Just give us a summary why you're so transparent on that and the importance of multiple revenue streams. And then we'll call it a day.
I just explained this to someone on my Facebook wall that was saying, oh, you only need one, but you need to really focus on it and grow. Well, just imagine you in a paddle and you have one paddle there, you in a boat, and you have one paddle to just get from one side of the river to the next. And that paddle breaks. What do? You're stuck. But what if you have 6 other paddles, and maybe they're not as strong or as fast? You could still move, and you could still, and momentum is crucial. You need money attracted to you. And once you realize that your book could be the connector to maybe 10, 11, 12 different new revenue streams, now you realize, wow, I don't need to have this one source. This one source keeps me desperate. And it's almost like when you're dating that girl in high school, and she's like the pretty girl in school. And if you lose that connection, you're nobody. But what if other girls wanted to date you also? And maybe you had some value that people wanted, they saw value in you and they want you to be with them. Well, now you're not as worried. You're not as desperate. You don't play the game like so close to the vest. It's the same thing with revenue streams. When 2020 hit, I only had one revenue stream, and it scared the hell out of me because everything started to drop right around February and March. So I had to go into crazy autopilot of, okay, I just need to create revenue streams. I don't know what it's going to be, but I need to create money. And it forced me to level up, create different products, different services, start looking at my businesses with different verticals. And so the book led into, new software. That software opened up a thing called the Inner Circle. I was able to create a membership. The membership led into getting new clients, offering new services, creating affiliates. Now I had apparel that I could launch. Then I was able to create this paid membership.